Welcome to the Put on Waivers Media Group, home of the Put on Raiders podcast and the Student Body Right podcast. This is your place for the best breakdowns and the best insight for those who fight on and bleed silver and black. Now, here are your hosts, Dwayne Douglas and Ryan Holmes.
And welcome everybody to the glorious episode of the Student Body Right USC podcast. I'm your host, Dwayne Douglas, and I am podcasting off the beautiful shores of the Pacific Ocean, beautiful down here in Southern California. PORSBR is my Twitter handle, so you check me out there. And then we have my homie, Evan Desai, sports writer extraordinaire, all the stuff like that. Does a lot of different things in writing for sports. How you doing today, Evan? And we comes on periodically to talk USC football. Let's talk real quick about. I knew at the end of the game, but you're no stranger to Michael Penix. What are your thoughts about his performance and what Washington did and how that whole game went?
I really think that was just kind of their worst nightmare there in the fourth quarter when they were getting another close game. And it's like, okay, well, Washington, they always win the close games. And then they win the close games until this one when it just didn't happen. I felt like he didn't have his best game. Obviously, the 3 picks, that was obviously bad. Was it 2 picks or 3 picks? It was 3, right?
I thought it was, I don't remember if it was 2. I remember 2. I remember 2 for sure.
Yeah, multiple interceptions. You don't expect that from Penix. I mean, you can't really win against a team like Michigan with multiple interceptions, especially in a game like that. And especially in a game where Michigan was playing very characteristic to how they play. I understand there were a couple of drops in there. There was some bad penalties in there. But, Penix didn't look very good under pressure. That was a big criticism of him during the game. And I thought his mechanics were a little bit off. I thought he kind of got away from himself when he was under pressure. So I know there's some talk about, could he creep into the top 2 with Caleb Williams and Drake May as the top 2 quarterbacks? But, realistically, that's just not going to happen.
Stop. That wasn't happening. I mean, it was. I mean, to me, it was what it was. I don't think it was a great performance by Penix. He has a lot of mind. He can't change minds now because people are going to just say that you hit him, and then it's over. And he has been hit, and his career is marred by injuries. So I can't argue that point. 27 for 51 is not going to get it done. And then this was a close game throughout, and he had a myriad of opportunities, even against a good Michigan defense where people were wide open, and he didn't hit it. I mean, Roma Duze should have had way more than 5 catches for 87 yards. There were definitely some breakdowns in that secondary, and he just overthrew people. I've heard people who coach quarterbacks to say when you have a wide open receiver, throw the ball a little short because you don't want to overthrow a wide. Let the receiver maybe come back and get it, but you don't want to overthrow a wide receiver when they're wide open like that. But it is what it is. The Harbaughs continue to Harbaugh gets his first championship. He's probably going to be the Charger or Raider coach by Wednesday. So or however that works. So we'll see how that goes down the road. USC, I got a chance to go to the Holiday Bowl, so that was fun. What were your thoughts? Did you feel like you were in a different universe watching a different USC team the way they played in that game?
I mean, I did. I mean, when I looked at the possible opponents for the bowl game, I was seeing, Clemson and Louisville. It was like, okay, well, these are teams. I don't know if they're elite teams, but they're teams that are capable of beating the brakes off of USC, just the way that USC's played this season.
Yeah.
And I'm hearing about all these opt-outs. That was ridiculous. There should not have been that many opt-outs. I'm not saying that, everyone should just always play in every single bowl game and that you're a bad team if you don't play. But how many opt-outs were there? There were 20 opt-outs, right?
I would say so. My thing was just about the game was like this. So I felt like, if you're, I can't get mad at any of them who did opt out because you can justify it for a 1st round pick or a 7th round pick. Like, like somebody like Solomon Byrd might end up being a guy who is a undrafted free agent who makes the team. Like if he got hurt in that game, like it's like, I mean, he played Edmund Solomon Byrd played in that game, but like if like he or let's see, what was his Todd Washington played in the game. right? You know, but I mean, he could have been a guy who opted out, but he didn't. Brendan Rice opted out of the game. Like he could have played. He could have did it. So like, guys can get hurt. So like, I get the part, but for the most part, besides I think it was Jalen Smith from Notre Dame, right? The linebacker who got hurt and never was the same. Really, he got hurt in a bowl game and never was the same. Most guys don't get hurt. So it is what it is. But I mean, it was a lot. And then you also had a lot of transfers too. Like I know we all know about Mario Williams' transfer, all the guys like that. But you know, it was weird to see them. I mean, I tell you one thing, from being on the field with the team and just like kind of just chit chatting with a couple of people, like like Grinch was really he had such a dark cloud over this team, and it really like how this season could be a kickstart for next season, the Holiday Bowl. Last year should have been a hey, what the heck is going on with the defense moment for Lincoln Riley last year, because that's what really held this team back. I mean, they really people who didn't deserve to play were playing. I mean, that's what really bothered people. It wasn't the best. It wasn't the best. It wasn't the the best guy. And you see, USC has been one thing. It's always been about the best guy playing.
Yeah, I think that we kind of got away from that, as you mentioned. I think we saw that by watching. I mean, there have been a lot of questionable decisions that we've seen over these past couple of years by the coaching staff. Not too many on offense until this year. But the offense actually still played really well this year overall. The defense, though, we're seeing personnel decisions that were really confusing. We're seeing guys that were actually kind of playing well towards the end of the Clay Helton era, not really getting opportunities, and then new guys coming in, not really playing very well. I don't really want to name names. I could if you wanted me to. But I think that the guys who played in the Holiday Bowl certainly looked good. They certainly looked energized. Deanne Lynn wasn't the defense coordinator for that game, but I do think just him being around the team a little bit does make an impact. I mean, he's not going to sit there and just coach the defense and revamp the defense in 2 weeks, whatever he has to recruit. But I do think that he had some sort of impact on it. That stuff does happen. So that part wasn't too surprising.
They tackled. They tackled. It was amazing.
Oh yeah. And I mean, they played way more physically. I mean, I thought the defense was still pretty bad, but I mean, there's a difference between being pretty bad and being what USC was throughout this entire season before the bowl game. Other than the Nevada game?
Yeah. I'm not trying to make them like Michigan in that game, but they tackled and they forced turnovers, and they didn't make it. It wasn't. They forced the team to matriculate the ball down the field. It wasn't like these one. There wasn't these one play drives. Like, you know what I mean? I knew I knew they were undermanned, so it wasn't like they had a bunch of different whatever. But like, at least give you something. So they were able to do that. As far as that goes, quarterback. Obviously, I got a chance. I got a chance to see Caleb Williams was there on the sidelines. Miller Moss's performance was outstanding. He is really, even the UNLV quarterback came to USC, left USC, went to Georgia. You had Will Howard said no Moss. He's like, I'm going to go to Ohio State. He really kind of shocked the competition into not coming to USC.
No, yeah. As you know, I did not want Will Howard. I would have been interested in Jaden Maava. That being said, he wouldn't have started here if he came here. I did want him as a backup. That didn't happen. But, like I said, he wouldn't have played. And it's just like, this is going to take a long time to explain. But
yeah,
for you newer listeners, there's something Dwayne talked about in the offseason where he was saying when he watches film, he notices that when Caleb Williams, oftentimes when he makes that home run play down the field, there were other plays open during the play. Caleb Williams decided to wait a little bit longer, hold the ball a little bit longer, because he knew something else would open up way, way, way down the field for a touchdown. I mean, how many times do we see him, scramble around, run in circles a few times, and find either Taj or, if it was last season, Mario Williams, sometimes this season, Brendan Rice, finding guys open in the end zone, like 60 yards off, because he took his time and he trusted there would be someone down the field. Now, that's, of course, one of Caleb Williams' best traits. That's something that he does really well. Sometimes it actually hurt him a little bit because he held the ball a little bit too long in certain situations. But that's part of what makes Caleb Williams so exciting, is he was always able keep his eyes downfield and find that big play. What Dwayne was saying is there are other plays that are open. So when everyone's saying, "Oh, Miller Moss can't run like Caleb Williams. He can't really run this offense just like Caleb Williams," they're gonna have a big trouble, big change. It's gonna be a lot of trouble next season. You don't have Caleb to bail him out every play. It's like that's not exactly accurate. There are still plays open that a pocket passer could make, like Miller Moss could make. He doesn't necessarily need to to go for the home run every snap to be a really effective quarterback in this offense. And I think we saw that in the Holiday Bowl. Now, do we expect him to throw for 6 touchdowns and only 1 reception every game? Absolutely not. Okay, no. But do I think that he's capable of making the right plays when they happen? I think he's way more than capable of that. And I think they're going to be there are going to be a ton of plays like that in this Lincoln Riley offense. And we saw that against a really good defense. Louisville has a really good defense. And also, I mean, we've seen Miller Moss run a little bit this year. He can run. Like,
he can move.
He's not a quarterback. I don't know. I would call him a dual threat quarterback in the sense that usually when you mean a dual threat quarterback, you're talking about like someone who is like an elite runner. He's not an elite runner, but he can move. He's mobile. He's mobile enough. The offense, I still think is going to be fine. The offense technically scored more points per game this year. It was like by 0.4, but still had more points per game this year than last year. They had 20 or more in every game. They couldn't say that last year, despite how great the offense was last year. I'm just not worried about the offense. Jonah Monheim's coming back. I thought Miller looked great. I think he really proved himself. And there were a lot of fans, that really did believe in Miller. And I was glad for them they got to see that as well.
Yeah, and I would say like the thing that people keep. I mean, I'm not battling the people in the comment section. I love y'all. Y'all, I mean, you guys who follow the show and like help grow the show are the reason why I was able to go and get credentials. I always say if I had 1 subscriber, they wouldn't have said yes. But like when you look at 23 passes that for 372 yards. I was there. I mean, he was throwing bombs. Like that's the one thing I give about Lincoln. Like the one thing I picked the Louisville to win that game, but I would say the thing that I forgot myself was I should have been like, okay, they gave Lincoln Riley 6 weeks to get prepared for an opponent. I mean, I should have kind of read a little bit more into that. But for the most part, I mean, I was very happy with the young receiving core. That was fun to watch. Seeing like people like Anthony Beavers come up and make a big fumble. Kyra Hudson on special teams blocking a punt. That was fun. It was really, you can see the energy in the ballpark for that as well, especially from the complaining Louisville people who were like disgusted to have to come all the way over here to play this game because and Louisville had very few opt-outs. So you got the true Louisville game. So you mentioned Jonah Monheim. He's back. That was huge. Like getting him back. Elijah Page was outstanding in that game. Nobody was getting closer to quarterback with him on the field. So you got that. You got Jonah Monheim, who's going to be back. So that's cool. So you go into the Big 12. The Big 10 next year. You need that offensive line to be really good. And that's a really good sign there. As far as that goes, what else do you want to see from this USC team going into the transfer portal time and all that stuff like that?
I do want them to kind of be able to still attack the offense line because, like you mentioned, like Monheim, Page. I think those guys I would expect those two to have a good year. I think guys like Emmanuel Pagnon, for instance, like maybe he just needed another year. That's very possible. Everyone was excited when he came over here through the transfer portal. So, it's possible that he plays well. The whole offensive line really played well. I think like Jason Zanamella coming here next year is number one interior offensive lineman in the country in this class.
Yeah.
But I still think like there are good players in the class. Marcellus Williams, Cameron Fallon, I mentioned Zanamella, Xavier Jordan. But I just do think that I still think people keep saying like that team we saw in the Holiday was a one-off, and they're kind of right because I wouldn't expect that entire lineup to be playing next year. For instance, like Anthony Lucas, I don't think played in the bowl game, right?
I don't remember if he did or not.
If he did, that's bad news. I don't think he had any tackles or anything. So it's like I expect that this team will look a little bit differently. the question really is going to be who's going to leave. Because that I think is going to tell us, like, who from the bowl game that showed out is actually going to be here. Who can we trust to play well? And then I think they can really get a full evaluation on what they want to look for in the portal. Really on both sides of the ball. But for offense, I think they're going to be really, I think they still have a ton of talent. I think they can still try to stack talent on the offensive line. I think they definitely need offensive line depth because they're losing guys like, obviously what's his face? Michael Tarquin entered the portal. So that's kind of an issue. Obviously, GH is leaving. He's been on your line for 6 years. But for tight ends, I'm actually not that worried because we're going to get Walker Lyons playing next year. The receivers, I think are looking great for the future. Obviously, Zachariah Branch shown what he can do as far as what his talent is, and Kobe Lane got his opportunity. Mekhi Lemon got his opportunity. They played really well, and even Deuce. It feels like whenever Deuce has a drop, he always makes a play. In the Stanford game, he made that big play.
I just need him to because that was on that first drive they were smoking that first drive, and then he dropped the third down pass, and I'm like, cousin, come on, and then they missed the field goal because that has to change next year. Leary has to. They can't have that kicker again. There's no way you can have him. Dennis Lynch can't be there. He just can't be there anymore. I can't do it. I can't do it. Like, I mean, he missed like 6 field goals. I think it was 10 for 16. Like, you just can't miss that many field goals, especially in close games coming up. I know Tyler Robas is down the street for me. That's a guy who I would say, come on. I'm sure I've seen him kick a lot, and I don't want to think that he is a guy who is just going to be the guy who does kickoffs. I don't want to say that anymore. I would say. Too, you mentioned Mekhi Lemon. I would say talk about a willing blocker. He really was that kid he's feisty. I can see why they flirted with him being a defensive back, but like I give that kid a lot of credit because he really was moving people all over the place in the run game when they did try to run the football or in the screen game as well. So yeah, I mean, even Bryson Shaw looked good in this game. Like that's when I knew I was like, okay, they're gonna win this game. When I saw Bryson Shaw make an open field tackle, I was like, oh, it's a good game. I was like, game over. It's over. So they do got some pieces coming back though. So I think the two guys I think on defense I'm really anxious to see Eric Gentry with this new defensive staff. And then obviously you mentioned Monheim coming back is big. And I think with the offensive line, it's one of those things where like the year before they seemed like they were more of a together group. You can't, I think in the transfer portal, that's a group you can't throw together. You can throw together other pieces, but you need that offensive line. They have to be like guys who just like they play together, they hang out together, they play video games together, like they do all those things together to get that continuity there. You need that on the offensive line.
No, I agree too, and that's why I'm kind of hoping that the development, some of the guys that maybe didn't develop this year, just need a little bit more time, like you said, to kind of gain that chemistry. Because like with them, like I think we have a good idea who's coming back on offense. When I heard, I believe it was Joel Klatt saying this is a one-off team for USC, which I was mentioning earlier, like to kind of expand on that, like
to a certain extent, it is. But for like there's some the players who did very well in that game, like Page and stuff, and like Monheim, like so some of these guys are going to be there next year. So, but I see what he's trying to say.
Yeah, I really just want like when I heard that, like I really just want to see because like there were players just on the team playing in that game who are in the transfer portal. So it's just kind of weird era of college football. Like that happened last year too. I believe Tua Stephen Nomura was playing in that Cotton Bowl. He was in the transfer portal. Like what's going on? So I just want them to kind of be able to realize like, okay, how much stock do you want to put in that bowl game? To me, you got to put in a lot because that's, you got your defensive coordinator. That's kind of your audition. They played well. Those guys seem to play a lot harder than what we saw during the entire regular season. And then you're kind of looking at, the pieces you brought in already in the transfer portal, like bringing in defensive lineman from Vandy. Nate Clifton is his name, correct?
Yes. Yep.
He's a stud. And so I think you're bringing in him.
So this weekend they had Javier Durrett and they had Isaiah Ranks. Isaiah Ranks played with Anthony Lucas at Texas A&M. Big defensive, right. The big defensive lineman. So defensive tackle. So was Javier Durrett, and he played with Matt. He played with Entz, who was going to be the linebacker coach. So that and assistant head coach. So those are two guys, and I do think one guy to replace Taj Washington, Silas Bolden, who was shooting pictures this weekend. Like that little dude would be perfect. He would be. You can't have a more perfect replacement for for Taj Washington than him. He's tough to deal with.
No, absolutely. And I think, once they kind of get the front of the depth chart solid out, they're going to be able to realize what depth they need. Like, they already got, obviously Dan Lynn already has taken one of his starting safeties, one of his starting corners with him, yeah, you're losing, Christian Wallace, Kalen Bullock, but you're getting a couple guys who have played for this defensive coordinator and played well in return. You got the cats from the brothers from Oregon State. Those guys are going to be good players. I think you're kind of building that starting foundation, especially when you had a guy like Gentry who was really talented and really could play well under the right coaching. Anthony Lucas is really talented, of course. Jalil Muhammad, I think, was one of the few players that played really well this year on defense that you could really count on. I think that they're going to be able to have a starting lineup on defense, which is surprising because basically everyone felt really bad during the season. Yes. And now the portal is just going to be about building that depth behind those guys. No question. Just establish a two deep. That's really all you need. That's all we need from this defense. Offense is going to ball,
Yeah, and I mean, and to me, like for me, I just I like what I've seen so far. I just need the beef up front. That's it. Yeah. I mean, that's really it. As far as some of the guys who left in the transfer portal, I'm looking at it right now. Like for the most part, I'm a little disappointed in a couple of guys, and I think two guys I'm disappointed in would be Dorian Singer and then also Mario Williams, only because like it's clear that this team, you would be the veteran guy in this wide receiver room, and you have opportunity to really ball out, be doing that. And I felt like for them to like not kind of leave town and just like try to say, okay, I'm going to bounce on that. Like to me, it's kind of I didn't particularly like it. Michael Jackson going to Georgia, more power to him. Like I mean, he wasn't going to get that. He wasn't going to get that much burn with that. We'll see what Damani Jackson. I mean, I'm sure USC fans will be on every single play Damani Jackson makes for Georgia. They'll be on it. They'll be on that play. So I'm sure about that. And then the big one would be everybody's talking about Malachi Nelson, but I think if you look where Malachi Nelson ended up going, I think that says a lot about like injuries, says about a lot of different things. Like he won't end his, if things go well for Malachi Nelson, which I hope it does go well for him, he won't end his career at Boise. He'll be there for a year just to kind of rehabilitate whatever stock he has as far as going somewhere else.
No, absolutely. I think, obviously you don't want Malachi Nelson to go. That's not really the situation that you want. But when Miller Moss plays that well, he probably realized that he entered the transfer portal before the bowl game. So he always knew Miller Moss is good. I don't really think he wanted to bother competing. I think he expected that he would hopefully get that chance to start in the second year. And, I've heard some things, one thing that I've heard, it was actually from Jason Brown from Last Chance U, if you know him by any chance.
Yeah.
On his show, he talked about how what he thinks is happening is that there's no evidence of this, but what he thinks is happening is that we're in this age of social media, and so these 5-star recruits, they want to play right away because all their buddies from high school are playing right away. Yeah. So when they sit, at a program that has a lot of depth at the position they play at, like the Lincoln Riley team or something like that, and they're the quarterback, they're seeing their buddies playing, they're not playing, and, it gets in their head a little bit, and they want to go somewhere else and play. So, I don't necessarily know it's the most encouraging that was Boise State, a group of 5 team, you would expect a guy with that type of talent would be able to go somewhere else. So I think it's kind of what you talked about with maybe some health issues aren't necessarily right there. And as far as the receivers go, I mean, yeah, I definitely wanted Dorian Singer and Mario Williams to stay because, like you said, they're going to be the vets, and I think they were going to play well next year. But at the same time, it's just all 4 of the freshmen are so good this year. I really do think they're going to be really good next year. Zach Rye-Branch, Mekhi Lemon, Deuce Robinson. Even like Kyron Hudson, I think, could have a really big year next year. and obviously
Well,
just couldn't
maybe
be
you
late.
know what? Maybe Kyron Hudson is that veteran guy. Like, you know what I mean? But I
Yeah,
do. But usually the way they used Ty Washington, and Ty Washington came from freaking good. I mean, think about him. He came from freaking Memphis. like,
yeah,
like, like, and he's like a crowd. He's like a crowd favorite for USC. And talking to, I mean, you can see him because I was in the press conference at the end. You can see him just taking it in and being like, "Wow, this thing is really over. Like, it's really over. I wish I could have." You can see that he really wishes he wanted to do it. Like, being around college kids, I can see why Chris Carter, the great wide receiver for the Minnesota Vikings, they asked him, if you could come back to be a Buckeye or a Viking, what would you do? He said a Buckeye in 2 seconds. Like, you cannot the college experience. You cannot play college football. You can't talk about it enough. Like, you can't talk about it enough. So it's crazy. And then there are some names though. I do think it's interesting that there are some names on this list that, like, people that are still looking for squads. Like Dorian Singer is looking for a squad. I haven't heard anything about Corey Foreman. I thought Corey Foreman should really. I thought Corey. I mean, like, they all can come back, but like, I think Corey Foreman really should, like, really try to put in the work and try to. You have an NFL guy running the defense now. Like, I mean, this could be a really good opportunity. I thought Tackett Curtis, who they been over backwards for last year, and he just wasn't ready, and they didn't want to have him sit. So, so he's still looking for a squad. People like that are still looking for. Shout out to Fabian Ross going to Hawaii. Good job, brother. Good job. I appreciate you for that one. Thank you. If you're in LA, well, you might just go to Hawaii, as far as that goes. Who do you give me a defensive and offensive name so far? Before I let you go, who transferred over that you like to help USC this year?
I think Nate Clifton's a big one for me just because he fits that position of need, honestly,
Yeah.
because also, like, his numbers were pretty solid, at least for his position with what he did at Vandy.
And the game and the also the games he played against Georgia and good teams. That's what was really impressive to me about Nate Clifton. Yeah.
Because, like, it reminds me kind of like when Jamil Muhammad transferred, it was okay, like, how good is this kid really? Like, we know he was a former quarterback, he has talent, athletic kid.
Yeah.
Like, how good is he really against, like, Power 5 teams? You look at his numbers; they were just as good against Power 5 teams as they were against Group of 5 teams. So clearly, he was obviously, a good player. It was a good find from USC. Obviously, I've talked about him before. But I would say I like both UCLA guys. But I would say Kamari Ramsey is just the bigger pickup for me, just because we lost Kalen Bullock. When I thought I actually expected him to come back.
Yeah.
I think Kamari Ramsey, of course, like being able to play for Dan Lynn, that's obviously a huge deal. And then Jaquavius Marks, I think that, like, people forget, like, I know that Marshawn Lloyd had some fumbles this year, but he was in the top 10 in yards per carry. I think he could have a really big impact.
Yeah. Next year in the draft.
So I think that being able to replace him with another 4-star transfer from the SEC, I think that would be pretty huge. So I'm pretty excited to see him. I would say I like both the brothers from Oregon State as well. I think the transfer portal, has gone well for them so far. I think the reason they're, just still so far from the top 10 in the recruiting range is just because of the high school class really didn't work out. But there's still plenty of opportunities for the portal, so we'll see how it goes down.
Yeah, and I think also too they've made a point. They've said they're going to go for defensive and offensive line in the portal as much as they can. And I mean, they just make from going from the Pac-12, which is goodbye Pac-12, it's over. And USC is still the last Pac-12 team to win the national championship. So, for me, I mean, that's the way to go. You got to get the lines. And with Michigan didn't win that game because they had fancy wide receivers. They won today. They won that game because they had a dominant offensive line and dominant defensive line. So,
receiver almost cost them last week.
Yes, they're just not. I mean, but it's weird though. I would say one thing: these guys, and shout out to. I know you saw the comments by. We'll leave on this note. Shout out to the head coach of Iowa. What's the
Kurt Ferentz?
Kurt Ferentz. You saw.
He talked a lot of mess about USC.
And then, like, when you start, like, number one, like, coaches don't usually do that. Players don't even do that, like, really. So when you call out a squad like that, and then you put on that performance back to back, like, you don't score, in both of those games, dude. Like, and you don't play USC, so you're talking to us about a team you don't even play this year. Like, I mean, I think it's time to, like, I don't know how you feel about that, but like that, he kind of shut himself up on that one.
No, yeah, I don't really know what he's ever done, really. I mean, I don't remember any elite Iowa teams. I mean,
No,
when
tight
was the
ends,
last time?
tight ends to the NFL. That's all he's done.
No, yeah. So I'm gonna look up right now. When was the last time they actually did something? Because if you remember, even when we had Clay Helton, we won a Rose Bowl.
Yes, yeah. As bad as Clay Helton was, they actually won. They did win a Rose Bowl. Well, that is funny. That is
The
weird.
last time they won, is this correct? Outback. Yeah, the last time they won a New Year's Six Bowl. Oh my God, I was in elementary school. Oh my God.
That's
2009, unbelievable.
2009.
The last time was 2009. So I don't really want to hear anything from
Iowa
coach.
Oh
I think he had a good
God.
year this year. Congratulations. It was about time. You haven't had 11 wins since 2015. We had 11 wins just last year.
Yeah, it's not good.
I don't really know what to tell you. If you're Iowa and you want to talk mess and you can't even score a point on offense, and that's been like your identity for so long, is how embarrassing you're on offense. That's cool. But I mean, I don't really see Iowa doing much in college football, really. So that's just
no. That was a poor choice of words. I'm not sure what that was about, but yeah, that was bad. That whole thing was bad. I could not believe that was Iowa played that poorly. I mean, you can't play that poorly and then put your kids out there and just not know about the forward pass. It's crazy.
It's pretty hilarious.
It's pretty hilarious. All right, Evan Desai, thank you for joining us here again on the Student Body Right USC podcast, folks. Yes, I'm going to get to the comment show. I have been busy as hell doing all this stuff for the Raiders and for USC, and also for the quarterback show, the signal caller as well too. So it's been busy as well too. Plus I got a little one too who drives me crazy. All right. As always, folks, fight on. Take care.
Fight on. Appreciate it, Dwayne.
No problem.
Later.